I know you're having some trouble with this early queen attack, queen h5. I know that's why you are here. So this is what they call wayward attack. So how to deal with wayward attack, how to deal with early queen attacks. In this video I'm going to explain you how we can refute this. It's not like winning, but you're going to get really good positions in general when your opponent plays these kind of things. You won't be losing more games when they play that. So that's the idea. Today I'm going to tell you how to deal with this kind of early attacks. So how to refute wayward attack. Let's talk about that. So e4, e5, and then queen h5, right? So that's what we are dealing with. I'm going to tell you two stories. I'm going to tell you the short story, and also I'm going to tell you the long story. So the short story is like this. Whenever your opponent plays any kind of early queen attack, not only this one in general, the way to refute or the way to deal with this is by defending and developing at the same time. So keep that in mind, because we're going to see some things. We're going to see here some of the main lines your opponent can try, some of the main things they will do, but we're not going to see everything. It's impossible. So keep this in mind, and this is the short story. The way to defend and the way to deal with that is by defending and developing at the same time. If you can defend and develop at the same time, you're good, and you're going to get better and better every time, and you will get 10p by attacking his queen eventually, and you're going to make progress in general. So keep it in mind, because you're going to need it. So that's the short story. The long story: what do we play here, and what's going to happen whenever they play this? Well, they're attacking your pawn, so clearly you need to defend it. So you will play knight c6 here. This is the best move, and this is what we're going to play. After knight c6, they will try bishop c4. That's what they want. They want to threaten checkmate here, and that's what they're trying to do. So they will play it almost for sure. Let me show you. Because this is actually very interesting. In these positions with queen h5, white is performing for 50%, which is very high. I mean, it's not very high, but it's good for white. So they are winning 50% when black is winning 45. That's fine. So they can get some success with this. So whenever they play queen h5, you play knight c6, and then almost for sure they will play bishop c4. 73% of the games they do that. So almost for sure they will play bishop c4 here. And in this position, let me tell you, bishop c4 they still perform 50%. So bishop c4, the best move here, they are threatening a scholar mate here. The best move is going to be g6. Remember what I told you at the beginning in the short story, and it is that you want to defend and develop at the same time. That's what we have been doing when we played knight c6, and that's what we have been doing when we played the move g6. So keep that in mind. I mean, g6 is development because your bishop comes over here. So you're going to play g6, and the thing is that many of them will try queen f3, and they think they have some ideas, and actually many players just miss the threat and they just develop, and there is a checkmate. So we need to defend. This is what we need to do, and we need to defend by developing. Keep that in mind. So we're going to play knight f6. That's the development move. And let me tell you something. Many players know that with this idea, they can defend a little, and they know that they are more or less fine. But many players don't know what is going to happen after this. And actually, that's why some of them play this wayward attack, because they have some tricky things after this. So this is like the root of all tricky ideas that are coming once you play the right defensive plan. And that's what I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you not only this thing, which is the right thing to deal with queen h5, but also how to play after that, right? How we can defend once we get here. So I'm going to show you some moves, like for example, like queen b3, like c3, like knight e2, like g4. I'm going to show you some of those tricky moves, because there are threats and there are ideas hidden behind those moves, and then I'm going to show you how to deal with those things. In general, black is going to be well in all these positions. Observe how interesting knight e2 is performing really well for white. Of course, we're going to see it here. So well, let's take a look at the lines. So for example, they play g4. What's the idea? The idea is that if you play, I don't know, you play d6, for example, they are playing g5, and then if you move the knight, they give you mate here. So that's the idea of g4. But well, actually g4 is very easy to deal with if you're aware of the situation, if you understand the position, as you will after watching this video, you will know that you don't have to let him play g5, right? It's your turn, you can do things. You can create problems and you can create threats. So you can just play, for example, knight d4 here. And after knight d4, observe the percentage here, 67% for black. We are totally okay here. It's a very good position. It's the best move for engines as well. And black has decisive advantage. So just play knight d4, the queen has to go. You're attacking here and you're attacking here. So this position is already very good for black. We're not going to analyze it. But be aware of this kind of ideas where they are playing g5. So that's when they play g4. I don't think we need to analyze anything else in this line. But also, for example, we need to cover. I'm going to let knight d2 for the next. So, for example, like c3. So what happens when they play c3? Well, here we have many ideas. Basically, the idea of c3 is dominating your knight, and in general, you can play, for example, knight a5. That's a little weird. So I'm going to say something more normal, like bishop g7, maybe. And this is totally okay. This is more normal, more traditional, natural development, something you're going to understand much better. And this position again is super good for you. Observe you're a little better with black pieces. I guess I can try like d3, and again knight a5 is a move that makes sense because you will get the bishop. That's a good idea. When you get the bishop for sure, knight a5 is fine. So maybe knight a5 is an idea. Still, it's not my favorite anyway. I could castle here. So let's take a look at that. You just castle, and again you are a little better. So I think this is a little more normal, more common. But castling is performing for 48, so it looks fine. All moves here are h6, preventing the pin forever, and that's still super good for black. Prophylactic, preventing the pin, and then you're going to castle, play d6, normal development. It's going to be super fine. So yeah, I'm not going to delay more talking about this position because I think it's a very normal position. There are not like big threats, and we are a little better. So I won't talk about c3 anymore. The next move I'm going to cover here is queen b3. And this move is annoying because they are taking your pawn on f7. And there are some options here. The engine is saying knight d4. But well, the most normal continuation here is queen e7. And you're still better here. Knight d4 is probably better, but it's going to be more complicated. But if you understand everything, you can play knight d4, of course. The idea is that you're attacking the queen and you're attacking the pawn. And also the idea is that if he captures you with check, you just play king e7, and then he has many problems. You're still attacking c2, b3, and f7. So he cannot deal with all the threats. And if they play like queen c4, you're going to play b5. So eventually he has to go somewhere, and you will get the bishop. So yeah, we need to say that the best move is knight d4 here. And observe the performance, 62, so super high performance. So yeah, you can play knight d4 if you understand everything, but if you're not sure about it, just play queen e7, and it's still good for you. You're decisively better, or clearly better. So this is super good for black. And of course, the idea is normal development, right? Like bishop, like pawn, like you castle. You can trade pieces. You can play knight a5 if you fork, and you trade the knight for the bishop. It's going to be good. That's also something you need to keep in mind. Whenever you can trade that knight for that bishop, it's going to be good. Almost always. So keep that in mind. So that's the idea of this line with queen b3. As you can see, it's something you can defend easily if you know these things that we are talking about. And if you understand the position, it's going to be easy for you to deal with it. But I think we already covered g4, queen b3, and c3. So we need to cover this line that when I was studying for the video, when I was preparing everything for the video, I saw this line and I said, wait, what is this? How is this move so strong? And it is this one, knight d2. I saw this move and I said, how is this move performing? 56%. It's totally normal. There's nothing here. Why is this so good? For white. I'm going to show you because there is a hidden trick here, and if you're not aware of this, you can lose the game. So it looks like totally normal, totally slow, totally quiet, and suddenly, boom, you lose the game. That's what can happen in this line. So be aware of this and watch out for the trap I'm going to show you now. If your opponent plays knight d2, we are going to play the move we're going to play the move bishop g7. I mean, The engine's favorite move is a6, but actually bishop g7 is very logical, very normal. And you know I like the moves where we understand things. I don't like to play a move that the engine is suggesting if I don't understand it, right? So I know h6 is very clear, it's preventing some eventual bishop g5, it's preventing any kind of g4 g5 idea. So I know it's good, I understand it, but I think it's going to be much better, much clearer for you guys if you play, normal development here, like bishop g7. So that's the move I'm going to suggest. Bishop g7 here, but let me show you the trick. And also, it's the move that they play more often, right? So I'm also going to show you the trap. So the trap here is that when we play bishop g7, the normal move is actually correct. There's nothing wrong here. White is going to play something like d3. And then after that, we're going to castle. And they're going to play something like bishop g5. So far, we're good. We are slightly better. 0.3 for black, as you can see here. So we are totally okay. In this position, we are going to play normal development like d6. And in this position, black usually plays h3. That's part of the trap. Observe the performance again. Black performs 60% with h3 here. Black plays here like a bishop to e6. Again, super logical, super normal. And here they just play knight c3. And the thing is that after knight c3, many players, most players, 64 of them will play bishop takes bishop, while we'll play pawn takes bishop. And then if we play here a move more or less logical like knight d4, observe what happens. 84% performance for white. Like they win 84% of the games. So that's already super good. And we should say that knight d4 is losing the game. That's like the idea of the trap. It works also against, for example, against knight b4, against other things we're still losing. So there is a trick. The trick here is that they are threatening knight d5. And this is not so easy to see. I mean, it's not so easy to know when you're playing, a blitz game, a bullet game. If you are a beginner, an immediate player, this is not so obvious. So they are threatening this. And if they complete this, they win. Because then we have 3 attackers on your knight. And you have only 2 defenders, and you don't have a way to bring a new defender here. So basically, that's what is happening. They are playing knight d5 here. So if in this position you play knight d4, they just capture. Pawn captures, and then knight d5. And then, as I was saying, this is winning for white. So that's why this line is very tricky and performs so well for white. Because there is this line where we just play normal chess. We think we are better. We think we are good. We think there is no threat, and we fall for that. So what's the solution here? Well, very simple. At this point, when they defend with h3, don't let him just play knight c3 and knight d5. How do we do that? Just play h6, and we are totally okay. Observe black is a little better in this position, so we are totally okay. So yeah, d6, and then if they play this, just play a6. Exactly, that's the idea. So whenever you play a6, he will have to go back, and there is no threat with this knight d5 thing. He won't be able to get your knight. Even if they play bishop to h4, you can play g5. This is not front. You are fine in this position. You are advancing your pawns a little, but his queen is like trapped. Observe his queen cannot move so much. So you're going to be fine. They're suggesting here some d5. That's a little crazy, but basically the idea is that after pawn takes pawn, you can play g4, and then after pawn takes, bishop takes, they play queen e3, and then boom, knight d4. This is a little crazy. I could say do not worry about that too much. You have many threats, and if they capture, you capture, and if they capture back, you have rook e8 check, and when the king moves, bishop check, and when the king moves again, you're going to discover with knight h5. Again, this is crazy. You don't need to know all these things. Here, you trade queens, and then after rook takes, you get b2. Again, you don't need to know any of that. Just keep in mind that after h3, he wants to bring the knight to d5. So you don't play bishop e6, just play h6. Get rid of that pin, because if you keep the pin, he can play from some traps there. So basically, we go back to the position where we were, and I just wanted to say that here we already covered the basic ideas white can try, like knight e2, like c3, queen b3, or g4, and I guess we are fine. We know how to deal with all those things. This is a critical point here. We need to see how they continue, what trick they will try, because there are some options, but as you saw, we are fine against all the options, so we don't need to worry about this. This is actually a good thing for black. Very often you are slightly better. In some positions you're going to be clearly or even decisively better if you are aware of these things. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you have questions, please let me know in the comments. I would be happy to interact. Thank you so much. I will catch you guys in the next.